guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Happiest Hour on Earth. I'm your host, Emily.
And I'm your other host, Chris.
And we are so excited that you are joining us for another episode. This is technically going to be our Father's Day / Mother's Day episode because we actually didn't do one for Mother's Day this year. But we figured we would just kind of combine the two holidays and do more of a life lessons based off of Disney and Pixar movies. Obviously, we all know that there's so much to learn from the movies. I mean, every movie, I feel like there's a different theme that we can all like learn something from. And so it just seemed like a good time to kind of lean into that and talk about some of the most applicable ones that we feel like we've learned.
Yeah, whether that's, within your family, your friends, or just personal growth. We thought that there's so many cool lessons that you could learn from Disney. And so we picked 10 here that really stuck out to us. And I'm sure there's going to be some that didn't make it on our list. Maybe we forgot about those because there's just so many. But we would love to hear your favorite life lessons from Disney below in the comments, or just hit us up on Instagram and we'd love to chat about those. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to jump into this episode. But before we do, if you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and click that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening on a podcasting platform, go ahead and click the follow buttons, give a 5-star on Spotify, write a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That really means so much to us. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this episode.
Let's do it. Okay, so we are going to dive into this episode very soon. But before we do, this is a very special week because it is not only Father's Day, as we mentioned, but it is also this guy's birthday.
Yeah.
When this episode comes out, it was 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So June 12th.
Same birthday as Richard Sherman, actually. So
cool.
And yeah, so cool. So sad. We did an episode on him 2 episodes ago, I believe. But
great man.
But yeah, you share a birthday with a great there for sure.
So cool.
I always feel bad for her because my birthday is always the same week as Father's Day. So I tell her just get one gift. You don't even need to get a gift.
I never just get one gift. Yeah. But, it's the thought that counts, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So special week.
Yeah. This will be my 3rd Father's Day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
our
crazy.
Son is 4 in a couple months. So yeah, you've been a dad for a while now.
I know. It's
pretty
crazy.
Exciting. So we've got a couple fun things going on we're excited about. So we're just kind of keeping it minimal this year, but we're in our 30s. What do you do for your birthday once you're like past 30, right?
Yeah. Well, going to a concert on my actual birthday on a Wednesday, which is weird. But you got to turn up
the day
on
off
your
work,
birthday.
and we're just making a fun day out of it.
Yeah,
so it'll be good.
Fun. It'll be fun.
Gotta celebrate.
Yeah. So should we jump into this first one, which actually does kind of follow the Father's Day theme in a way?
Yes, the first one does.
Yeah.
So they're not in any order, but the first one that we're going to talk about is Finding Nemo. Obviously, so many parent-kid lessons to learn in this one.
Yeah.
One of my favorite, I feel like, especially since becoming a parent, learning how to navigate the parent-child relationship in terms of like boundaries. It's something I'm always learning or trying to learn with a toddler. It is a struggle daily, but the way that Marlin is so overprotective, obviously, because he wants to keep his son safe after the very traumatic start to Nemo's life. That
finding the balance.
The balance that we need to have as parents to keep our kids safe, but also let them like spread their wings a little bit and just gain that independence that all kids decide that they need at some point.
Yeah.
But also on the flip side of that, Nemo really has to learn a big lesson about following his dad's precautions over things that are definitely dangerous.
There should be that mutual respect between the two, right? Because it was Nemo's actions of disobedience that got him taken all the way across the ocean, right? However, maybe he wouldn't have done that if Marlin wasn't as strict, and so there's this fine balance that you have to have with your child, and it's like It's so
nearly
hard.
impossible.
It's so hard to figure that out. And so I'm glad they tackled such a tough subject like that in a movie. Man, it's hard. It's really
so
difficult.
hard, but it's a great lesson, I think, for parents and kids watching that movie.
Yeah. I think another lesson that you could pull out from that is just do anything for your family, right? Like Marlon was always so cautious, yet he went to the greatest lengths to protect his family and to find his son. And then I think another one too, of course, coming from Dory of all places, just life is going to have those ups and downs, you know, like an ocean.
Yep.
But you just got to keep swimming. You know, there's going to be times where you're in a slump, and then there's going to be times you're on top of the world. And so it's just kind of like navigating, knowing that you're going to get out of a difficult situation. Easier said than done for sure. But I love that little mantra of hers. Just keep
very
swimming.
Encouraging. We all need that sometimes. Every day can be one or the other. It can be a battle of the mental load every single day. But yeah, such a good lesson to just
For sure.
push through, and you don't know what the next day will hold. So
For sure. Yeah. Next one comes from Inside Out, which Inside Out 2 is actually coming out today, the day that this episode drops. So we're going to be seeing it on Friday. Cannot wait to see it. This has been one we've been excited for a very long time.
Yeah.
Because that first movie is just so great. And I think the main lesson here is being open and transparent about your emotions, what you're feeling, to yourself, right? Like don't bury those emotions down. Also to your family and friends. It's really good to open up and not let things, not hide things. But just, know when you're feeling certain emotions, and also like understand the beauty in all emotions, right? Like it was because of sadness that her friends came around her after they lost that hockey match, right? So, you got to know that sadness will bring about joy sometimes. And also, they could coincide together, and it's not until
oh my gosh,
which one?
Just
at the end,
that ending scene where Riley creates a new core memory that is both joy and sadness in one. It's so beautiful and symbolic. I love that scene so much.
Yeah, and it's because she didn't want to. I love that scene where she thought that she was going to be a burden to her parents by voicing her concerns, that she misses her hometown. She misses her friends and her hockey team and all this stuff. And it was because of just holding on to those emotions that she decided to leave and walk out. And then she realized that her parents understood what she was going through. And so it's really about like being open, being open and transparent, because it's very healthy. And, you got to let those emotions out. They handled that movie so well. And so I'm curious how they're going to do. I mean, sequels are never as good really for the most part, as the first one. So I hope that they handle everything really well. I'm expecting to cry a lot, I'm sure.
I'm thinking we will. 'Cause if the first one is any indication, then it's true. But we will see.
I know. Oh, it's so good. Okay. So moving on, actually, this is the first one that's actually Disney. The first two were Pixar. Of course, Pixar is so good at crafting emotional and stories with lessons, but so does Disney. And so the first one out of these Disney ones is Lion King. And this is a father-son movie as well. And I think the lesson that we really took from it was that we should let our values guide us, right? Like when Simba sees that his dad has passed, which is one of the saddest scenes ever. He runs away, right? And he just doesn't really know where he fits in. He finds this meerkat and warthog, and he hangs out with them, and they're great and everything. But it's not until later when he, Rafiki is showing him, he faces himself. Rafiki says, Mufasa actually lives in you. One song that I love so much from the Broadway, He Lives in You. Love that song so much, but that's so true. He realized that he was lost, but he just needed to look inside himself, remember the lessons that his father taught him. And in that way, Mufasa lives in him. His values and his ideals live within him. And so just carrying on that legacy of the wisdom that, future generations have passed on to you. And you also gotta take a little bit of a Hakuna Matata in your life sometimes, right? Like there's going to be certain issues where they might feel big and seem huge at the time, but really they're going to pass. And you just got to say, no worries. I'm all good. And it's going to be
Exactly.
so minimal in the grand scheme of things. So there's going to be times I remember too, especially with school, that was so stressful, like a big test or a, bad grade or something like that. And, you just got to kind of like shake it off.
Life
And
moves on.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah, things can change in an instant. And yeah, you got to kind of like choose your battles. Like, what are you going to let get to you, like overwhelm you? Because life, shouldn't be such an overwhelming thing. I mean, it can be for sure, but I think that just keeping in mind that things are going to change and you don't need to always sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And, rise above that the next time, there's always going to be those different opportunities. So
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on our list is Princess and the Frog, which is more of a father-daughter movie.
Yeah.
And in that movie, Tiana's father, before he passes, says something to the effect of, wish and dream with all your heart, but that can only take you part of the way. You got to help it along with some hard work of your own.
Yeah, I love that because I feel like a lot of Disney movies, especially back then, it was just like, wish upon this star and it will come true. But I love what Tiana's dad said here because you need to put in that hard work. It's great to have those dreams and to keep wishing and hoping. That will give you the fire to work hard at what you want to do. Those dreams definitely do take a lot of hard work.
That's
and
true.
So I love that Disney was able to slide that in there. That's not just wishing upon a star.
I agree. Yeah. And that's something I hadn't really even thought about, the way that it's, such a different contrast from the rest of the princess movies where things are kind of just handed.
You have your fairy godmother. Yeah.
Yeah, it is cool to see how, following her dad's advice, Tiana is able to work hard all of her life and then she gets her dream.
Yeah.
It's so good. Such a good lesson.
For sure. So our next one, we're actually going back over to Pixar. We're going to talk about Brave. And I know that that's not everyone's favorite. I really enjoy the movie.
It's a great movie.
It's really, really good. And there's a huge lesson in here. Kind of the contentious nature that Nemo is having with Marlin as well. This one's daughter and mother. And I think the real big lesson here is always strive for reconciliation with your family. And this should happen from both sides, right? I think like both of them were really going at it and not really fully understanding, but
each other. Yeah. Not really trying to see anything from the other's perspective.
Yeah.
I think that can be our problem sometimes, is we only can look at it from our own point of view, whatever the issue might be, without being able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. And, if you're growing up or if you're a parent of a child, probably experience this on the daily as I do. Because it can be really hard to switch your perspective and try to learn from that other person and actually try to reconcile. So.
Yeah. I think the other lesson here too is that life is so short. You never know when someone might be gone forever, right? Like her mom at the end, after the whole Mordu debacle and everything, and the sun comes up and her mom stays a bear for a little bit longer than she would have liked. And she thinks that her mom's going to be a bear forever. And just that like realization, like, I know we didn't get along. I know we had different viewpoints, but
and
now
it's
she's
like a
gone.
reality check.
A reality check.
She
Yeah.
might really be gone forever.
Yeah. And then thankfully she comes back, but man, that scene always hits me so much. Okay. I'm going to let you take this one because this is your favorite, and definitely a favorite of mine too. But.
Yeah, and everybody probably knows what my favorite is now.
Yeah.
And I'm wearing a shirt about it.
Yeah.
Peter Pan. So many life lessons in this one. Number one being obviously never lose your inner child and the ability to see life through a child's eyes at times. Obviously, we're grown-ups. We know like life isn't just about having fun and like having no cares in the world. Obviously, that's not the reality.
Yeah.
But I do think that Peter Pan gives us such a good picture of just holding on to the things that bring you joy. And a lot of that can relate back to your childhood. I think obviously Disney is a part of that for us. That's, anytime we watch a Disney movie, go to Disneyland, listen to Disney music, any of those things always will bring us back to our childlike state, I guess. And I think that that's just really important in life because, life is hard and there's so much that can really just weigh you down, and being able to connect with something that brings back that like innocence, or just,
I think that part of you always lives there. However, we usually shut it off. Yeah, we squash it. But there, that part of you, that child, is totally you. We just have to, do a thing. Yeah. And we have to, grow up and get jobs and do all this stuff. But just like, I think a great example is Mr. Darling.
Yeah.
It's the same voice as Captain Hook.
Very interesting.
So it's almost like he was so cut off from having a childlike wonder, just worried about his work and everything, that he was resembling Captain Hook, always bitter towards Peter Pan and youth.
And his kids, like he wasn't willing to at all, just let them be kids and have an imagination and, joke around and stuff.
And then what happens at the end of that movie when he looks out and he sees the ship, and you see his whole demeanor change. Yeah. And it's like, even just a little bit of tapping into your inner child can change your outlook. I love that. Yeah. It's, Peter Pan is so great.
It's so sweet. It's such a short moment in that movie, but it is so important to the rest of the movie, because I feel like you're kind of conditioned to just hate him from the beginning of the movie, because he just seems so cold hearted. But then right in that moment, it's like, oh my gosh, he's just like any other person. He's just finally able to like feel that childlike wonder again when he remembers Peter Pan's ship from when he was a kid.
It almost like that's a good lesson in and of itself too. Remember that everyone was once a kid, and everyone had dreams and things they wanted to be and everything. And so remembering that we've all gone through similar stuff. Totally. They'll definitely be different depending on the person, but we were all kids. We all had to grow up and deal with all the hardships that come with life.
It's true. Very true.
And so the next one is kind of similar to this, Mary Poppins. And we just watched this with our son the other day. But the whole point of, I love the line from Saving Mr. Banks, which is about the creation of Mary Poppins. And Walt Disney goes to P.L. Travers' house and says, she didn't come to save the kids. She came to save the dad, and save the dad from a just like Mr. Darling, just a cut off from childhood wonder and all of that stuff. And just coming to the realization that work is more important than family. Sorry, that family is more important than work. He never spent time with, I love that song that he sings where he's like, I get home and I sit down, I have my drink, and then I pat my kids on the head and they're up the bed and all this stuff. And it's like, that's not how you should live your life. You got to be there for your kids. And then the whole turnaround with Let's Go Fly a Kite, when he mends the kite and he, is frolicking with the kids. It's just so amazing.
Like I was saying, Bert, I feel like has a heart to heart with both the kids and Mr. Banks. Yeah. There's the one part where he's like explaining to the kids,
like the bird in the cage.
Yeah, exactly.
He's caged up in there.
Yeah. And he's a good man and he loves you, and he's in that cold, heartless bank all day or whatever. And it's just, I don't know.
And that goes back to what we've said with some other Disney movies, is that both need to understand what the other one's going through too, the parent and the child.
Next up on our list is another Pixar one, and it's Coco. Such a great movie, one of my ultimate favorites. And once again, lots of great life lessons in this movie. Yeah. But one of which is being able to teach your kid what passions you have, but not necessarily expect them to emulate that or have the same passions as they grow up. I think that's something that maybe a lot of parents struggle with, because, when you have a kid, you kind of feel like you get to live vicariously through them, and you want everything you loved as a kid to be something that they love too. And that might be the case for a while, but passions can change, like when kids are little, they can love one thing and then the next day it can change. So I think it's just a good lesson to be able to let your
give them the options of, this is what I used to love doing. But exactly. I used to love making shoes, but if you don't like that and you have a passion for music, like go do that, you know?
Exactly. And, you know, obviously there's more to that story.
Yeah.
Why music wasn't allowed in the family. But the expectation that he was just going to continue on the family business and start making shoes even as a little kid. And it was not at all something that he was interested in. I think it's just a good lesson to let your kids decide what path they want to follow.
Yeah.
As they grow. Yeah. Which can be hard, but you know, we've all got to do it at some point as they grow up. Yeah. But another lesson that I think is very, very important is to not discredit the elderly, I guess, specifically in your life, like your family, whether that's grandparents, great grandparents, could be anyone, I guess. But I just believe that there's so much knowledge that we can get from those that have come before us, especially grandparents. I mean, I had really close relationships with a couple of my grandparents, and they're all gone now. And it's, you know, it's so sad that, you know, we had this short, finite time together and now they're gone forever. And it's like, those were very special memories we had. And I learned a lot, but now it's, you know, that was our one chance. So it's like, I just think it's really important to spend the time that you can with those in your life that have lived a lot of life and have so much that they can teach you about life. Yeah. And I love what Miguel says too. He's like, he's talking about, you know, Coco, and he says something like, she doesn't talk much. Like, we don't talk too much, but I love being around her. It's like that thing where I think sometimes at some point grandchildren don't really know what's it. Oh yeah. Great grandma, right? Great grandma. Don't really know how to interact and with the older person, especially those who are just kind of, you know, just subdued. But he's just like, I love just being around her. And I think that's a great thing to take from that, you know, just appreciate the time that you currently have. Yeah. I love it so much. And, you know, I kind of on that, I had to go through kind of a similar thing as Miguel, because my grandma that I lived with for a while and we were really, really close. She had a stroke when I was late teens, early 20s. And for the last couple years of her life, she couldn't speak. And she was all there mentally. Like, she knew who I was, you know, knew what was going on around her, but she couldn't speak. But I still just got so much from just being with her and telling her stories and seeing her reactions and getting to tell her I was pregnant and all these like exciting things that happened in my life. You know, it's just very special. And I think we should all take advantage of that if we're able to in our own lives. Definitely. Yeah. On the topic of old people, we're on number 9. So we have 2 more, and we had to bring in Up into this conversation. And I think there's 2 here. One, it's never too late to try something new. And so, you know, even with age, if there's something that you want to pursue and you might feel like you're just, I should have done it years ago. Don't say you should have done it. Go out and do it. You know, you're never too old to try something new. And then I think another one here too is just the lesson that the adventure can come from being around those you love. I love that scene where he never even wants to open Ellie's adventure book and go to the section that said like our adventures or something like that, because he felt like they didn't do the things that they always wanted to do. And he never went to that section. He would always close the book before. And then at the end, he accidentally sees it, and it's photos of them together and all the things that they got to do. They didn't get to go to South America or wherever it was, but they did get to live life together. And that's the true adventure. You know, I think sometimes people think, oh, okay, just like going about your normal life and all of this stuff, you know, that's not traveling the world and all this stuff. Traveling the world is great. But really growing old with someone and feeling all those emotions, you know, starting to feel like all those like things we think of as normal is really the true adventure. And so, so very special lesson learned from there. And like I said, Pixar has a lot. Oh my gosh. And so this last one here too, we had to go to the original Pixar movie. And this isn't just Toy Story 1. This is just kind of
lessons taken from all of them. And so do you want to start here?
Yeah. Toy Story is just, I mean, I think it's so many of our favorite from Pixar. All the movies are incredible and they all, I think, give you something different to learn. But one of the ones that I feel like we got the most from it, we were chatting a night or two ago, kind of breaking down what we learned from Woody specifically. And I think watching his character arc from the first one to the fourth one is just so cool, because in the first one, he's kind of rude.
Kind of a jerk.
Kind of mean, you know, when Buzz comes on the scene and Woody's just like, you're trying to like take my place here with Andy. Like, who are you? Get out of here. And then you just see their bond grow, and Woody, you just see how he is so dedicated to his kid. And, you know, for the first couple, it's Andy, and then it becomes Bonnie. And he is just so dedicated to making sure that they are happy. And then even once that becomes not him anymore, like he isn't the main favorite toy, he still is just determined to make sure that his kid has the toy that is the most special to them.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's something so special about that, seeing how he gains so much like humility. And I don't know, the lesson that he himself learns by the last one of like, when, who is it? I'm trying to think how the scene goes, but I think Bo Peep is questioning him, like, why is this so important to you? Like, just move on. And he just kind of explodes, and he's like, because it's like the last important thing I have to do, or something, like to just make sure that Forky gets back to Bonnie. And it's just like, you finally get to the root of like why it's all so important to him. And it's just so,
that is, I mean, it goes from the first one, him trying to get rid of a toy who's harming his self love. You know, he thinks he's so important that he's willing to knock Buzz Lightyear out the window into Sid's yard. Right. And then in the fourth one, he's risking his life. He's risking his voice box for a spork. A little toy that seems just like Bo Peep says, wait, he's actually like a fork, you know?
Yeah.
He's risking everything just to get this one thing so that his kid could be happy. And so that that selflessness that he learns and thinking about others is just so cool to see. I love that character arc.
Me too.
So much.
Me too. I hadn't really even thought much about how much he changes over the course of those movies until we were talking about it. But it's like, man, he really, really did a 180 from who he was to who he became. He really became such a selfless toy that just wanted what was best for his kid. Yeah. And then he finally did maybe an even more selfless thing and left and decided to help more kids with their toys. And it's just
goes back to what Andy says in number 3, where he says like when he's looking at Woody and he's just saying he's like the most loyal thing. He'll always have your back. He'll always be by your side. And that's and so true.
Listening to
Andy give his final words to him.
Yep.
Gosh, that is amazing.
And then we learn a little bit from Andy in that last scene also about, you know, like we already talked about, being able to reconnect with your young self and enjoy those things that you enjoyed
when he's playing with Bonnie. Yeah.
It's so precious.
And being able to let go when it is time to. Oh, gosh, that's so hard.
So many lessons.
Yeah, the Toy Story movies are just fantastic. Very curious what Toy Story 5 is going to bring. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, 5 is a good number. I like 5 better than 4. I like 3. Like originally I was like, just keep it at 3, and then 4 we really loved. But 5, if they could do just 5, and if they could circle back to Andy somehow.
Yeah. That'll
and
be
his
perfect.
Kids. That's
the only way that it would make sense, because at this point I feel like 4 really should be the ending, but the only way is if it goes full circle.
It has to. And then that will just be the best like 5 animated movies that generations will continue to show because of that full circle. That'd be so awesome. But thank you so much for listening to this episode. It just kind of popped into our heads. It's just crazy when we're thinking about life lessons from Disney movies, and there's so much that you could learn. And so we just had to do an episode on it. Let us know what your favorite life lesson is that maybe we talked about, or maybe you have your own that we didn't talk about. We'd love to hear from you. Your guys' support means so much to us. And so we're just so thankful for all the support, all the love that you have given to us. And
so much.
It really does mean so much. But with that, we will see you guys next week for another episode of the Happiest Hour on Earth. We'll see you then.
Bye, guys.
Bye.